Hi, and welcome to Speechcast, the essential public speaking podcast. I'm Dave Azer. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And you are in for a good one today because I always talk to on-camera people. Today, I'm going to talk to a guy who hires on-camera people to host. It's Rich Barry, a good friend of mine and a guy I've known for over 20 years. He's a hugely successful multimedia producer, the former vice president and creative director of Viacom International Media Networks, and one of the creators of Slimetime Live, You Pick Live, and TEENick. And not to mention, he hired me to host Slimetime and essentially launch my career, so it's always my pleasure to chat with him. Can't wait for you to hear so many pearls of wisdom from Rich coming up right now.
This is Speechcast, the essential public speaking podcast. Here's national TV host, public speaking and media coach, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author, Dave Azer.
Man, I love you, Rich Barry. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me on. Very, very nice of you.
As I said in the intro, you and I go back numerous years. We've stayed in touch, which is so cool. And this is a neat thing that we're doing together. So thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Very happy to be here and always happy to accommodate whatever you need, you know.
All right, good. We're going to talk all about Nickelodeon. We're going to talk about your work with various hosts, but I had forgotten until I was rereading your bio that before Nickelodeon, you actually worked with Howard Stern many years ago. Tell me about that experience.
I did. I started out really with Howard, basically coming out of college, and had a friend who knew the number of the promotions manager there and was like, call it, you never know, you might get something. And I called the guy and he recognized my area code. And that was the only reason he picked up. And he hired me on as an intern. Then I became the assistant to the assistant promotions director. So that's like 4 steps down or something. And what I was basically doing was handing out bumper stickers from the K-Rock van at concerts. But I did get involved in some of the studio stuff with Howard, and I was there the day that Bon Jovi and Sam Kinison had this big fight and that whole whatever that was. So I saw it firsthand. I was really in the middle of it. And consequently, I ended up leaving for Nickelodeon from the Howard job because at that point, Howard was only on in 2 markets. And I only thought, well, he's not going to go very far. Where's this guy going to go?
There's so many gems from what you said, but that's my favorite part is that you're like, Howard Stern, please, come on.
I mean, where's this going to go? Really, you know? And then years later, I, slapped myself a couple of times for not recognizing the genius that is Howard. And I love Howard. I still listen when I get a chance, but I should have known a little bit better. But let's be honest, very, very happy with the way things turned out for me. So I'm in a good space.
Yeah, of course. And I have a couple of Howard Stern questions about him as a host, but it's funny that you went from Howard Stern to Nickelodeon. Like, could there be 2 more opposite extremes than those 2?
I don't think there are any. No, it's the exact opposite situation. You're exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And at that point, it's talking like 1990, both up and coming. I mean, both really just exploded from that point on. So either way, I would have been, very, very happy.
So just a question about Howard as a host, because this podcast is really all about on-camera performing and public speaking. And He is, of course, now the stuff of legend. And I think, in my opinion, he's one of the best interviewers out there. He's a terrific interviewer. He gets the most out of guests. Back when you were working with him all those years ago, I know that you said you didn't necessarily think he was going to be a big star, but did you see anything in him that you were impressed with? Anything where you thought, oh, this guy's instincts are pretty good. He's pretty talented.
Fearless. That's the only thing I can say. He's just fearless, right? He went into every situation with like, what do I have to lose, right? I think I don't know him that well, but I can speak to what his motivation has been, but I do think that's his strength, is he's just not afraid to ask any question. And he likes to, I like to believe he asks the questions the viewers want to hear. They really want to know the questions he's asking. And he has an innate ability to get to that question and no fear in asking it.
And he has established so much trust that now when you're a guest and you go on a show, you know you're going to get asked those questions. Otherwise, you're not going to go on in the first place. So he's in a great situation where he can ask those questions, those tough questions, but he's not going to get a no comment. And if he does, he'll follow up and he'll eventually get something. So it's set up nicely.
Yeah, he'll fight his way to the answer. And if you listen to his interviews, you hear that he doesn't let go, right? He wants to know the answer.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about your Nickelodeon years. You know, I talk about Slimetime Live a lot on this show because it's my favorite thing I've ever done. And it's the reason that one of the reasons I've been able to enjoy as much success as I have. And I'm forever grateful. And listen, not to get all emotional and mushy and weepy, but if not for you, I might be selling shoes somewhere,
No, that's not the case. That's not the case. This was one of the many steps in your career. And again, and I'll say the same thing. One of my favorite things I've ever done. Really, I can't think of a day when we worked on Slimetime that felt like work to me. It was a pleasure. It was so much fun. It was the stuff of dreams where you can go to work and play all day and make up the most ridiculous things. And then 5 minutes later, see them on national television. That's something special that no one really, not many people get to do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, you're right. We would just try stuff like, you know, what would be fun if we dip our faces in this and then we throw this across the thing and then we pie this person and then this thing drops down. Let's try it. And it almost always worked. I'm curious, because I'll never forget when you guys brought me in to do it and how great it turned out. But I'm curious, before it was a thing, I know there were like sort of a few different iterations of it years prior, but what was the meeting where we were like, you guys were like, you know what, we're going to make this a show. Let's do it.
We met with, there's some other names I have to mention. Of course, Neil Sherman's was our boss at that point. Neil's is still around in the universe somewhere doing crazy things. And Kevin Wiest, who was my executive producer at that point, came to me with the idea of bringing back Slimetime because Neil's and I had done it way back in 93 or 94 or something like that as a live, marketing stunt. And it felt like the right time to bring back this crazy slime thing because we were launching, if you remember this at the time, we were launching Double Dare 2000. And the idea that was the Slimetime was supposed to lift up Double Dare. And if anybody remembers, that didn't happen and we'll just leave it at that. But Slimetime just blew it away. No offense to anybody on Double Dare. It was just an amazing, just a rise out of nowhere. Slimetime just kept getting bigger and bigger and huger. And I think we just needed something to really make a lot of noise. And we obviously own Slime. And we felt like live, as it still is today, is the most exciting part of, media.
Did I read that you were given the original recipe for slime or entrusted with the recipe for slime? What is that about?
So at some point later after Slimetime, I was given the sort of unofficial or official title of Chief Slime Officer, right? Which has gotten me, not very far. I don't use
it's also fairly lecherous. It's like, depends on this. So you have to be like, no, for Nickelodeon. No,
right. It's right. It's right on the edge of being a little bit weird. And that was I was the judge of all slime because slime had become so prolific, obviously. And even outside of Nickelodeon, it's still a huge thing on YouTube and all that kind of thing. So to get it right for Nickelodeon was an important role. And so Russell Hicks at the point asked me, he said, could you do this role? And I was happy to do it. And that just meant me checking all the slime, color, consistency, the silly things that we do in our lives. But that was my role for a good couple of years at Nick. Yeah.
You're glossing over it, but it's fascinating to me. So what do you first of all, I'm colorblind, so that's a job I could never have.
Whoa. Now you tell me.
Yes.
Okay.
True. So that was, by the way, that was an added wrinkle when I was hosting Slimetime because we would have GAC and stuff was red and orange and blue and purple. And half the time I'm just like sort of guess, yeah, you win, right? I'm looking over for approval because I can't tell the color.
We were telling you in your ear. Yeah.
That's true.
You had
that
a little
is true.
help.
And that is a good bit of like inside hosting that, I had an earpiece and then there was also a stage manager and we had cue cards. It was fairly idiot proof, which I appreciate.
Well, when you're live, no offense, that you got to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
you got sweepstakes, you got prizes, you have to do it right.
Yeah.
So wait, so how does it work to be the quality control master of the slime? What, like you show up and you go, no, that's not green enough. What, what happens?
That's what you do. You literally show up and they have a big barrel for you, and you're like, "Oh, Mr. Barry, we want to show you the slime." And I'm like, "Okay." And I take my I dip my arm in the giant barrel of stuff, and I go, "No, no, that's not it. Nope." And it wasn't one of those things where I had a color chart with me. It wasn't one of those things where I could look at a viscosity thing and see that, oh, that's a certain viscosity. You just have to know when looking at it. And I will say, and this is going to sound weird, except to any Nickelodeon folks, like I loved the idea of getting slime right, that getting it right to when it hit a contestant's head and then spidered out in this beautiful, like it was great. The slime would go out like crazy, and the slow-mo shot was so awesome. And you remember all this every day. When it hit hard and it hit right, we were like, that's awesome. And I don't know how else do you explain it. So I just loved it when we got it right, and it was important to get it right for us, you know?
Yeah, I love that, because now I'm thinking back to those perfect slimings, and then we would do slow-mo. And it just looks so good in slow-mo. Yeah, it's really, really great TV.
I mean, it was awesome. And to this day, I will tell anybody who's sliming a celebrity for the first time, you're going to miss. It's going to happen. You're going to have your bucket. They're going to be sitting there. It's going to be, Kyrie Irving or whoever's going to be, and you're going to dump and you're going to miss. It just happens every time. You just have to, wherever you think you're going to dump, go about 6 inches back and then roll it forward, because that's the trick. You got to roll it forward. And I feel weird even saying this on camera.
But you're an expert in something that's just so nuanced that nobody else knows as much about this on the planet, perhaps, as you, which I think is so funny.
It's crazy.
Talk to me about your experience with the Kids' Choice Awards, because you handled the orange carpet, you ran that, and I know you did a ton of work with that show. Nothing is more prestigious on Nickelodeon than the KCA, and you were heavily involved for many years.
Yeah, I have to say I had a great initial partner in that, in Mr. Dave Azer. Thank you for hosting the first Kids' Choice Awards pre-show. There was no other way to do it without you, and so that was a bonus just to be able to get you out there to do the first one. But that was like, what were we talking, 2001 or 2 or somewhere in there. And it just kept going from there. And that pre-show, that orange carpet pre-show, just became the biggest thing. We were live for an hour and a half before the show. And then as my career changed, I went to become the head of Nick International, creative director for Nick International. I started taking over the international version of the main show, which was even crazier. We used to do awards for other countries. And so every part of my Kids' Choice experience was fantastic. And it did feel like the Oscars for kids, which is really what it is, basically.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. And I will never forget that experience hosting that. That was wild, man. I mean, live was no big deal for us. We did live every day, but doing that live was super cool.
It was great.
I want to ask you some questions about hosts, and let's, like, this has nothing to do with me, because I don't want to make this uncomfortable for either of us. So let's not even talk about me. But you have worked with numerous hosts in your career. So if hosts are listening, what's so cool about this interview for me is that I always interview hosts, but I never get to interview the people who hire hosts. So now I'm doing that. So when you are looking to hire a host, again, nothing to do with me at all, not at all. What are you looking for when you're watching a tape, or what a tape? I just sounded so old. When you're watching a VHS cassette,
reel to reel. Sure, go ahead. I'm with you.
Right, one of those old machines, which I think ironically is called a Nickelodeon, if I recall. Yes.
Perfect tie-in. I like it.
There you go. So what are you looking for in a host?
I think first and foremost, it's confidence. And you just can't fake it, right? If somebody's confident in speaking, you can't fake it. And part of being confident is knowing your stuff. Like, knowing your stuff is the number one. If you go in to a audition, or if you're going in to try out to be someone, if you don't know your stuff, you're not going to be confident, and that's going to show. So we for all of the shows that I did, Slimetime Live and You Pick and TEENick and all these other ones, we went in first looking for somebody who had that confidence first and foremost. And that came from, in every case, somebody who was prepared, walking in the door and saying, okay, when I open this door for this casting session, I'm going to know this thing backwards and forwards to where any question they're going to throw at me or anything they're going to do to me, I'm going to be ready. And that's what works. It does. You know?
Yeah, you can't fake it. You can be as charming and charismatic as you want to be, but you know this, on a live show, you gotta be on it. A tape show, fine, you can do stuff over, although that's kind of a pain in the ass too, to do 8 takes because the host can't get a line right. But if I'm a executive producer, if I'm a creative director like you are, and I'm thinking about a live show and the host isn't even prepared in an audition, no chance, right?
Yep. The second thing I would say is somebody who takes a chance. That's another thing I think is important. You have to just go for it sometimes, because in order to make an impression, you've got to just stand out a little bit. And maybe that means going a little bit over the edge or a little too far or saying something you shouldn't say. But I mean, I think you just have to stand out, because you're there, you know, in certain cases, I haven't done this in a while, but we would be seeing 30 or 40 people in a day, right? And you forget person number 14 through 17 at some point because they just weren't that memorable. So you got to stand out and take a chance every once in a while.
Oh man, that's such good advice. I love that. And I think of all the great hosts, the hosts I love, and to go back to Howard Stern, how we started this whole conversation, talk about a guy who takes chances. He knows his stuff. He's prepared, but he also he'll go that extra mile. He'll try those things.
You have to.
You mentioned seeing a bunch of people in a day. I'm curious. Do you ever know right away, either good or like somebody will walk in the room and you're like, nope.
Yeah. Pretty. It's tough, right? It's a tough job. And everybody who's ever tried out or auditioned for stuff knows that it's a tough road and it's not always much fun. But yes, there are times when you just know when they walk in the door and you're like, okay, let's just get through this and let's move on. And I was the guy who was always like trying to be super nice. And the other people with me were like, can we just move on? He's not the right person, be honest. And I was always like, great job. You know, yeah, it does happen. People just don't have it.
And by the way, I asked that question in part because I have been that guy. So even people who have booked hosting jobs, when I lived in LA, it was more for like commercials than hosting. But I don't know if you ever sat in on a commercial audition, like an acting. Yeah. I mean, it was horrible. And I remember walking into the room and just being like, no, I got nope. I've lost them, and I haven't even started to, like, I am not what they're looking for. And man, that is so I appreciate you being the nice guy who, even if you know I have no chance in this dog food commercial, you're going to humor me with your fake smile. I appreciate that.
I feel like somebody took the time to come in and learn the Heinz ketchup commercial or something. And you have to let them get through the whole song. And then, okay, yeah, you're not the right one. Sorry. Thanks for coming in. Right. Whatever.
What advice would you give prospective hosts? So know your stuff, take chances, but even if they're younger and they're in college, because a lot of people who listen to this podcast are in school. So they're taking all their journalism classes. They're doing the local TV. Anything else that you would tell them as a guy who's done, I mean, thousands of episodes of live TV for them to really sharpen their chops?
I would say, it's going to sound like, BS, but just say yes to every invitation. I think you just have to say yes. I think you, and I do a ton of stuff with the alumni at Quinnipiac at my university. And I just tell everybody, say yes. Like, hey, can you want to, yeah, I'll be there. Like, whatever, somebody invites you to do something, even for free or intern, whatever it is, you're going to get something out of it. You're going to meet 2 people. You're going to get that chance to connect with somebody who just might be the next guy who gives you the job for the next 25 years. And how could you say no to that?
It's great advice. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I did it in college. I had like 8 different gigs simultaneously and kept doing whatever I could do. Never really said no.
I've never seen anybody get a job out of watching Netflix all day. That's what I'll say. So
yeah, it's of course, you're right. You're spot on. Boy, I really hope that I'm not part of the answer to this question. And if I am, maybe don't tell me.
Oh boy.
Have you ever worked with a host who thought their, didn't stink? Thought they were entitled and better than others, and maybe you had to pull them aside? And I asked that question because I was always uncomfortable with the word talent. I hate when on-camera people are called talent. I hated it personally. It always bugged me. But I have worked with a good amount of hosts including one fairly recently, who thought they were better than the rest of the people on
Right.
staff. And I'm curious
Right.
from you, from a management perspective, have you had to pull any host aside and be like, we can find someone else, just so you know?
Here's what I'll say. I can't recall anybody off the top of my head, but I will tell you that there are plenty of actors who I've worked with, and I'll start by saying actors who thought they could host.
Oh,
And
great. Yes.
that's a very difficult situation to be in, because there are actors and they've worked their way up and they've done their roles and X, Y, and Z, but it is not easy to host. It's just not. It's a different animal. Unless you recognize it, you're not going to get it. And if you think you're doing it right as an actor, you're probably not. And if you're in a position where you're, high up in a situation where you feel like your stuff doesn't stink, well, it might be a tough blow to find out you're not doing it very well. Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I get together with my fellow hosts, and we don't get together to bitch. That would be pretty pathetic. But we just get together and we hang out and we talk about that, which is like, man, another actor, another reality star got a red carpet hosting gig, because
Right.
again, it's like, well, I've got a personality. I can be a host. But I really love that you said that, because to ask a good question in an interview, to listen, to be present, to ask an inspired follow-up based off of that answer, these are things that an actor is not well versed at, much as if I walked onto a movie set, wouldn't be able to get the hang of it. So I really do appreciate you, getting very sort of granular on this skill set of being a host, because I think maybe it gets overlooked.
Yeah, I think being a host is tougher than most anyone thinks. And the funny thing is, most people think they can do it, and most people are wrong. And you have a good friend, Mr. Brent Popolizio, who is on both sides of it and has done the actor part and the hosting part and is skilled at both, which is a rare commodity.
Yeah. But Brent has said this numerous times to me. I believe he said it on this show. And I think he'd be, happy to talk about it. It took him a long time, because he started as an actor. It took him a long time to feel comfortable as a host. And he really struggled with that and had to really work hard on it, to his credit.
Yeah. I would argue that he did struggle a little bit in the beginning, but he was just wacky enough that we stayed the course, and I'm glad we did.
Oh yeah, because he's amazing and he's hilarious. So let's talk about what you're doing now. You're rocking the branding. You're wearing the shirt. Impressive.
Sure.
Rule number 1 in marketing, which speaks to what you're doing. What is Speed Social all about?
Speed Social, yes, it's my new company that I started a couple of years ago. I left Nickelodeon after, well, gosh, it was 27 years, right? And what I was doing was, on the side, all those years at Nickelodeon, I was also racing, which is kind of a weird thing, and I don't think anybody at Nickelodeon was really racing cars, but I was, and enjoying it. And then during the last couple of years at Nick, I ended up doing a lot of NASCAR races with Nickelodeon, because they sponsored a bunch of them, SpongeBob 500 and all these different things, the Ninja Turtles thing. And I was helping them get all the creative and all the crazy stuff together for these races, because no one knew NASCAR. Literally nobody knew it. And I thought, well, this is an interesting side of the business. Like, I wonder if there's, I love racing. I race. Is there a way that I can transition this as I go throughout my career? And in 2018, Nickelodeon and I parted ways, and I literally hung up my sign the next day and started hunting after race teams to do marketing and social media support, thinking like, I know how to do short content. I do it every day. And I love racing. And so I've been instructing race drivers on how to go faster. I'm a high performance driving instructor. And this just felt like the next natural move for me was to try to, find a way to combine my racing skills with my media skills.
And you're loving it?
I am. I mean, it's a huge change, and it's not, there's no slime anywhere, to be honest.
Good, because if the cars are going that fast, that's a hazard.
It's a problem, right?
Yeah.
They don't really get the slime thing, so we don't really talk about it, and that's okay. But I just, when I'm going to drive into a racetrack on tomorrow, and it just brings a smile to my face every time I enter a racetrack. It's just great people. It's a great sport, and I just really enjoy every day working on it. And I've been learning a ton about how social how social media reacts and how people there's a good and bad to social media, and you have to kind of find the good in it because it can be a tough place. There's a lot of negativity out there. And so it's a challenge at times. It's fun.
Yeah. And for people like us who aren't 25 years old anymore, for us to be able to be active on social and for you to be like a trendsetter on social at your advanced age of, what are you, 30, 31 now, whatever you
30,
are?
Yeah. I've lost count. Let's be honest.
But yeah, I mean, it's not just for 18-year-olds. So good for you, man.
Right,
Keep up the fight for us older people.
Crank up the Nickelodeon and keep it all going. Call back. Yes, I really enjoy it. And it is, it's the new place for short form content. That's where everyone's on their phones. Like, how do you ignore that? Right?
Yeah, so true. Well, my friend, so fun. Love this. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me on, Dave. It's always a pleasure. We could go on for another half an hour and people would be bored to death, but you're a huge part of my career, and I've always loved all your work, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that. Do you want people to reach out to you, look you up, check you out? If so, how would they do it?
People can find me at two places, either speedsocialmarketing.com or richbarrycreative.com. I've got two different handles. So there you go. I'm all over the place.
You've got it handled. Oh, yeah. A terrible pun to end a great interview. Oh no, but I'm
right
not going to edit that. I'm going to keep that
on time.
I'm going to keep that. Good to see you, my friend. And take care, man. See you soon.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. See you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this episode of Speechcast. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned some great tips to get you some on-camera hosting gigs. If you did like the show, please share it with friends. Please subscribe. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it would be great if you could leave a rating and a review. Have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you again soon with another awesome guest on another episode of Speechcast.